Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee. In this show, we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Yes, guys, it is that time of the week again. It is time for Dayspring Discussions discusses the Star Wars saga. This is episode 5, and today we're going to be going over Rogue One, a Star Wars story, but I cannot continue this journey through the saga without the Rebel Rising right next to me, Miss Lisa Locke McGahee.
Hello.
All right, guys. So, for those of you who have not listened, Lisa and I are working our way through the live-action Star Wars films 1 week at a time in order to prep for the Rise of Skywalker. We rewatch the films, and of course, we give commentary on them, maybe a fresh perspective on some of the older films that we haven't seen in a while. Maybe our opinions have changed, but also we tie in some of the books, some of the comics, TV shows that go with that film, and of course, give some recommendations in that part as well. Lisa, you ready to rock and roll on this one?
I'm ready.
So with Rogue One, obviously, there's a lot to talk about, I think, in between, because, you did have episode 3 to Solo and then Solo to Rogue One, but really, we didn't cover a lot in regards to books and comics that take place in between episode 3 and Rogue One. There's honestly a lot, and I guess we just have to start with the obvious, which is, of course, Star Wars Rebels, the TV show. Lasted for 4 seasons, and, what can you say about Star Wars Rebels, Lisa?
I love Star Wars Rebels. I mean, what can we not say about Star Wars Rebels?
Of course, Star Wars Rebels lasted for 4 seasons, and it's
awesome.
Awesome, of course. A great characters, great animation. Probably some of the best Star Wars storytelling in years, I think, in my opinion. Giving us an idea of, it's in the name, Rebels, of course. It's how the Rebel Alliance became together, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's how these little fractions of independent groups that were causing trouble for the Empire came together and, formed a rebellion, so to speak, in that respect.
Cohesive, organized rebellion.
Yes, of course. And we follow mainly the crew of the Ghost, Kanan, Ezra, Zeb, Sabine, Hera, and along with them some other characters, like Chopper and Rex, and some girl that comes along too that has some white lightsabers. I don't know what her name is.
Yeah.
Of course, and it's awesome. I mean, I'm working my way back through Rebels right now as far as rewatching it. And I'm on, I think, almost done with season 3. I'm on the episode where Mon Mothma actually brings together everyone. Like, she calls out to everyone, and everyone actually comes together to actually start to form the rebellion. So that's kind of nifty. Along the way, you see other characters. Darth Vader pops up. Darth Maul pops up.
You have all the Inquisitors.
And of course, you get characters from Clone Wars as well, such as Hondo and Ahsoka and Rex that come in there too. And again, just great storytelling all around with that. And of course, there's books that tie into that. Of course, there's the Ahsoka book by E.K. Johnston that comes with it. There's the book A New Dawn as well. Now, that one kind of kicks everything up. That was the first,
That's where Kanan and Hera met.
Yeah, that was the first official, canon book we got, exactly. So that came into play as well. You got Dark Lords of the Sith. I forget who wrote that one. My computer's acting up, so it won't let me click on it. Hold on.
It's not my favorite of the books, but I know a lot of people, I think a lot of guys like that one better.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good there, too. Of course, tying into Rebels, you did have Thrawn, the Thrawn trilogy, along with that, which they're making a new set of one of those, too. Thrawn being one of the main villains in Rebels. So you did get that in there as well. So, yeah, just a lot of books to go with. Of the ones that I'm mentioning, which ones kind of stand out to you?
Well, I really like A New Dawn. That was, like you said, it was one of the first new canon books. I don't think people like it as much as I do, but I think it's one of those things, if I already was watching Rebels, and then, getting to read that book where you really get to get a little bit of Kanan's history. You see how he and Hera came together. I think it's a really interesting story. I really like I really like that one.
I mean, I like it. The thing is, like, because I read it as soon as it came out, just as Rebels was starting, so I wasn't as invested. I think, like you said, you were already watching quite a bit of Rebels when you read the book, so you already knew the characters, you already invested in them.
Yeah.
I liked
think that makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it, though. The Thrawn trilogy.
I love the Thrawn trilogy.
You love the Thrawn trilogy. I think it's okay. Thrawn is a great character. They were just mentioning on Dark Side, Light Side yesterday, John and his issues with some of the canon stuff about how he went through the Thrawn trilogy and how in the Thrawn books they make Thrawn seem like such a good guy, whereas in Rebels he's more of a bad guy.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, in the books, they show that he's Imperial. He has pledged himself to the Empire, and he's doing that. But the books also show that he's not. It just kind of shows how manipulative he can be, because he's doing everything he's doing in the Empire for the Chiss Ascendancy, which is his people. And I think that the last book in the trilogy really shows that, because it shows him kind of, I'm not sure how to say it. It kind of shows that he's kind of playing both sides. He's.
I think his loyalty just still lies to the Chiss mainly, but I think the thing is, like, he believes what the Empire is doing is okay. I guess is what it is, kind of the order of it. I guess you would say, taking away the chaos and actually bringing order to the galaxy. He believes with what they're doing.
But he's not evil like them, which I think is the difference. He doesn't kill if he doesn't have to. He's not just a bully, like a lot of the Empire are just bullies.
Well,
so I think that's a big difference.
Fair enough. Sticking with Rebels, of course, you did have the comic book series Kanan the Last Padawan to go along with it, kind of showing where young Kanan, or actually Caleb Dune was his former name, what he was doing during Order 66, and how he went from a Lost Jedi Padawan to the Kanan that we meet, or some close to the Kanan that we meet at the beginning of New Dawn. And again, I always say that's a nice little trilogy there. You get Kanan the Last Padawan, a New Dawn, and then Rebels, kind of, is your Kanan Jarrus story along with it all. Much like I'm going to talk here in a minute about the Jyn trilogy, which I will talk about too. But yeah, and then of course, speaking with the comics, Darth Vader. This is not the original one by Kieran Gillen, the other one by Charles Soule. Now, this one, the Darth Vader, takes place actually immediately after the events of Revenge of the Sith. The very first scene in the series is Vader, crying about Padme, and then he throws the Emperor against the wall because he's so mad, and they have a little bit of a scuffle actually. But it's some great stuff, guys. If you're a Darth Vader fan and want to learn more about Darth Vader, I recommend that series. The first volume basically is Vader getting his red lightsaber. The second volume is him training the Inquisitors. The third volume, there's a little thing in there where he goes to Mon Calamari. And then, of course, in the last one is how he gets his castle. How Vader gets his castle. So, again, just a lot of interesting stuff going on there in that series. I highly recommend that one as well. Do you want to jump into Rogue One, or do you want to talk more about some of the books that are surround it?
Well, you might as well just keep going with the books while we're on it.
Okay, all right. So we're jumping on, of course, some more of the books. This is also around the time period you have Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. I'll let you start off on that one.
No, I mean, that's a great book. Basically it just takes place, it's Leia as a teenager, basically. It's kind of Leia coming into her own. So, it's a really interesting book. Most of it takes place, on Alderaan, and you get to meet her parents, you get to meet her friends, you kind of get to see her struggling with becoming the leader that she needs to be because she's the Princess of Alderaan, and it's really, plus it's written by Claudia Gray, and her novels are amazing.
Yeah,
so,
definitely the hottest Star Wars writer right now is Claudia Gray.
Yeah, her books are very good, and that I highly recommend if you are interested in Leia at all. It's definitely a good read.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. And then, of course, there's other tie-in books that go along with Rogue One. Did you ever read The Guardians of the Whills?
No, I never did.
I started it, and then I I think I maybe got 20 pages in, and then I never finished it at all. So that just didn't go in there. And then of course there is Tarkin by James Luceno.
I love that book.
Again, another one I never finished.
I like Tarkin. I mean, I don't like him. He's not a nice man at all.
So it talks about his uprising in the Empire and everything, right?
Yeah. The Tarkin book starts when Tarkin was a child. Like, it's basically a biography of Tarkin, essentially. Yeah. But it really shows you, he belongs in the Empire. He is not a nice man. I mean, he isn't. I mean, everything he does is for himself and to be powerful. Like, that's all he cares about, is being the most powerful. And it's definitely, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's been a long time since I read it, because I read it when it came out. But it's if you have any interest at all in how Tarkin became the Tarkin that we know in the movies, like, this is a good one to read.
There's a really good story in the Vader comic book I was just mentioning. It's just a part of the story. It's in volume 3 towards the end. But basically, Vader tells Tarkin to try to kill him. Like, Tarkin sets down on this planet with a bunch of men that he handpicked, and they're hunting Vader because Vader's trying to challenge himself. And pretty much at the end, it comes with a standoff between Vader's power and Tarkin's wits. Very interesting small story on that one, too.
Well, I think that's a couple other interesting things where you see in the Thrawn trilogy, because Tarkin makes his way in and out of the Thrawn trilogy, and Anakin makes his way, and Vader in and out of the Thrawn trilogy. So in the most recent Thrawn book, the third one, that Tarkin has a very heavy presence in that book.
Yeah, so does Krennic.
As Krennic, right? Since that book is really Krennic and Thrawn fighting over the Emperor's funding. Yeah. Whether it's going to go toward the Death Star project or whether it's going to go for Thrawn's
the TIE
Defenders. Right. So Tarkin plays a heavy part in that, and Krennic is in there quite a bit. So that's interesting. But then also in that other Thrawn book, the one, I think it was the second one. Where Thrawn and Anakin, where it's like the two stories, like the one where he's with him as Anakin, and then one later when he goes back to the same place with Darth Vader.
Yes.
And I think it's super interesting to comment that the only two people that know Vader was Anakin are Tarkin and Thrawn. Yeah. Like, there very, 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 very few people know that.
They both figured it out, right?
Yes, neither one was told. They both figured it out. Yeah. And I think that goes to kind of show you their mentalities of those two, that the intellect that they both have, that they were able to figure that out, and so many others weren't, which is interesting.
Cool. All right, so then, of course, books that are tied into Rogue One. I want to save those till later on, actually. So let's just get to the actual movie.
But those two books are pre-movie.
Hold on, we'll get to it. Okay, hold on. We'll sprinkle it in. Okay, we'll sprinkle it in.
I mean, they literally come chronologically before the movie.
Anyway, Star Wars. Rogue One: A Star Wars Story came out December 16th, 2016, and it was the first non-episode Star Wars film. A bit of a risk, I guess you could say, where, it's not part of the Skywalker saga as we know. Something a little different, maybe even a little more rougher around the edges compared to the actual episodic films to go along with it. And of course, like a lot of the films post-Disney buying Lucasfilm, it had a little bit of trouble, but the director, Gareth Edwards, was able to take a step back, let people help him with the end of the film, and push it to the finish line, I guess you would say, in that respect. But anyway, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. We sat down, we watched it Sunday. Lisa, what do you think?
I mean, Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars films. I mean, I think it's particularly because of the books, which I don't know why we're skipping the books, but the books are, I think, really why I like this movie so much, are the two books that lead up to it. Because you just get so much. This movie in and of itself is a good movie, but once you get to know Jyn a little bit more, and you get to know about her parents and her family and her life, and her relationship.
There is one thing I like with the book Catalyst, which we'll just talk about, is all about her parents, Galen and Lyra, of course, and Krennic, and the whole start of it. And it came out before the movie. We both read it before the movie or listened to it. I guess you would say. So when we got to the theater, in that first scene of, Krennic coming for them,
it made sense.
It made sense. It meant so much more to people who had not read the books. Because, again, we got the whole backstory on it. And it's all about, how, Krennic talks Galen into helping him work on the Death Star.
Well, it's because Galen doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
Basically,
and then when they find out it is, then they leave.
I mean, so the book shows you where I mean, in Catalyst, the book, that's where Jyn is born. You get to meet her parents and learn what kind of, how her dad is this amazing scientist and he worked with the Kyber crystals, and, you see them move to Coruscant and get taken on by this amazing project for the, Krennic's project, but he doesn't know what he's doing. So when they end up going in hiding, that's where where Rogue One starts, when Krennic finds them in hiding. But I think it also makes it more understandable, too, in this one, why he was working for the Empire all those years, because, like Jyn said, he didn't want to do it, but he knew it was going to happen.
It was going to happen.
With or without him.
Yeah, exactly.
To protect he thought to protect Jyn, because he didn't really know what else to do. He did it. But I think that reading that book before we saw the movie made a huge difference in how much I liked the film. I mean, I think I would have liked the film anyway. I mean, I think it's very well done. I love all the characters in it. I like the look of it. I think the story is really good. I mean, there's hardly any parts in it where I think are unnecessary. I think almost all of the plot points and the things you see fit right in and kind of need to be there. Plus, I love the way it ends. I mean, I think it was very well
you knew
done.
It was gonna. You knew, the fact that it was pretty much a prequel to A New Hope. It was about them stealing Death Star plans that Leia has at the beginning of New Hope. And obviously, when you see none of these characters, any of the films, you kind of realize that things aren't going to go well for them. I really wish, though, some of them would have survived. It's one of those things where, like, with Rebels, or, you thought the Rebels characters were doomed because you didn't see them in any of, like, the new films or anything like that, but almost all of them survived.
Yeah, but I think with this movie, the way that they played it out, they all had to. They couldn't escape from Scarif.
Yeah.
So
I feel like a couple of them could have, maybe, but
they were mostly all dead already.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. And then, of course, since we're talking about it, the other book is Rebel Rising, which
and that one
leads
didn't
into,
come out until after Rogue One.
Correct.
But
that's about basically Jyn growing up with Saw, him training her, and kind of her life in between from what you see at the beginning of Rogue One when Saw picks her up to basically all the way
when you find her in jail.
When you find her in jail,
that book shows how she gets to jail.
It exactly shows her, growing up with Saw, and what do I want to say?
It shows where she gets her alias from.
Where Saw leaves her as well, and basically how she gets shaped into the person that we meet in Rogue One, which again is an interesting story. You have Catalyst, Rebel Rising, and then Rogue One. It's the Jenner show trilogy in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I love both of those books, and I love this movie.
There you go. Okay. All right. But yeah, I liked this movie. You like it more than I do, but sitting there watching, like I said last week, there's not a lot of Star Wars movies I don't like. Episode 1, Episode 2, I could probably say I don't like. All the other ones, I pretty much say I do like. But I mean, there's not a lot of negatives, I think, about this.
Yeah, I don't have very many either.
The only thing I could really think of was just, the cringeworthy Vader's line, "Hope you don't choke on your aspirations."
Yeah, that's pretty lame.
It was pretty lame, but, we made up for it at the very end with Vader's
that's such an awesome scene.
I know, just watching it again last night, or the other night, it was just so cool. The way they started off with the breathing, you're in the dark, and then he lights it up with his red lightsaber and just goes to town. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing that I don't like about it is Saw. I'm not a huge fan of how Forrest Whitaker does Saw in this film. I liked how he did the voice when Saw was in Rebels, but I don't like the way he portrayed Saw in this book.
Yeah.
I don't like that whole poor gullet thing, that weird creature that
makes
is
people
supposed
tell
to make
the truth.
people tell the truth. That seemed completely unnecessary to me. That's really the only scene in this movie that I feel like could have been left out, and because it's just weird.
It was different in the books, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, they don't even show like that they I mean, they still had him in a cell afterwards. So if they knew he was telling the truth, why they put, it just doesn't make any, that whole bit
and of course,
didn't really make any sense to me.
Saw, like you said, you see him in Rebels, and then you see him in, this film. It's very different, of course. And, I watched that Saw episode,
like a few days ago.
Yeah, a few days ago. And it's one of those things. I remember when we were watching that episode, and they were on top of the ghost trying to get away, and that little bomb lands next to him. And we were both like, "Is this where it explodes?" And he gets crippled or whatever, because that's who you see him in Rogue One. He's like a crippled man. Something happened to him. He's got the breathing apparatus. What happened to him? We never get to see it. I don't think so far. We're not quite sure. Maybe we'll see it in Jedi Fallen Order. Comes out on Friday, because he's going to be in that. Forrest Whitaker, of course, was in a video game to portray the character, which is pretty cool in that eyes. So, but yeah, I think my least favorite thing, or least character I have the most problem with, would be Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic. He's so whiny, I guess you would say.
But I think it fits the character.
I mean, it probably fits the character, I get it, but he's just seems kind of pathetic, He's like throwing a little tantrum because
that's the thing.
Tarkin's trying to take it from him.
That's what I mean. I think when you read all the other books about him, it makes what he does in this film so spot on. Like when you see him in the most recent Thrawn book, oh my gosh, he is so desperately trying to cling to this project that he can see all these people trying to take from him.
Yeah. He's
so what's the word? Paranoid. And I mean, ever since really, I think when you see how Galen kind of tried to get away from him, and then with Tarkin always kind of right there wanting to step in and take over as soon as it shows it's successful, and then with him and Thrawn fighting over the money, I think that the way he portrayed him is exactly how Krennic would be after having worked on that project for so many years.
True. Yeah.
So I thought he did a great job. I thought it was exactly how I expected.
Exactly. It's maybe he played the character he was supposed to, but I thought the character was pathetic.
Well, I think the character is supposed to be pathetic. That's my point.
Okay.
I think at this place in these Death Star, he's been working on this project now for 15, 20 years. And right at its moment when it finally is successful, people are taking it from him. And he's been suspecting that was going to happen the whole time. So he's a broken man at this point. He doesn't even know how to be you know what I mean? I think it's exactly how it's supposed to be.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, since we're talking about characters, let's just jump right into it. Felicity Jones as Jen Erso. I know you were a big fan of this character. What do you like about her most?
I just like her strength. She doesn't take shit from anybody.
She's got father issues. I mean,
No,
both from Galen and from Saw.
No, I don't think that she does have father issues.
Total daddy issues.
No, she doesn't.
Total daddy. Abandonment issues.
Abandonment maybe, but I don't think she has daddy issues.
Well, they're both men that abandoned her, so
whatever.
Anyway, but yeah, she's much a strong character. Yeah, she's a little rough around the edges. The thing about this one too is she doesn't want to be a rebel. She's kind of just trying to survive when we first meet her, and it's not till after she listens to her father's message and kind of sees him again for the first time does she realize he gives her a mission. Pretty much. It's like, hey, I built this, I took this job to protect you, but also I need you to finish this job as well. I need you to get these plans or whatever to the rebels and, find a way to destroy this station that I helped build. So it kind of, it changes. Halfway through the film, she kind of changes as a character and gives her a cause, that she was always talking about at the beginning. She's like, I don't care about the Empire. It doesn't matter. Don't look up and you don't have to worry about it. But of course, after her father's message, she kind of changes to where she realizes she has to get involved. It's a mission her father gave her and that only she can do. Along with that, so all right, Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, getting his own series coming up soon, actually. So I think it's interesting. One thing I feel like they mention it in the book and they never mention it in the movie was the fact that his parents were separatists during the Clone Wars. So it's one of the things where with his family or with him, he never switched sides. He never decided to fight the rebellion. He was always a rebel. In that respect.
He says that he's been a rebel. He's been in this fight all his life.
I know, and this is probably...
And he's older than Jin, so...
I'm interested in, the series because of what we get from him in this movie. I think to me, I like him more of an interesting character than I do Jen, because like you said, he's been at war, most of his life, both, as a younger child during the Clone Wars and stuff like that, but also what he's done for the rebellion at the very end there, when, the council decides they don't want to go after the Death Star plans, and Jen's disappointed, and then Cassian's standing there with a bunch of guys, basically all the other spies, and they're all like, they've all done terrible things in the name of the rebellion, and unless, if it was for nothing, then they can't live with themselves what they've done. All the terrible things they've done, we see at the beginning of the film. He kills this innocent guy just so he can get away, just so he doesn't get caught by the Empire and give anything up about the rebellion. Part of the bad things he's done for good reasons, he's got to believe that there's a means to an end. To me, that's a very interesting character. A guy who does bad things for a good purpose. I mean, there's a lot to dissect there in that shades of gray world where he lives in, and I'm looking forward to expanding more on that, not only from Rebellion, but also I want to go back to and maybe get some stuff with him and his family during the Clone Wars, and how his parents taught him to be like that, or how his experiences during the Clone Wars with his family shaped him to be like that too. All right, well, let's just go to your favorite guy, Alan Tudyk as K2SO. Go.
I love K2SO.
It's very different. When you look at K2 versus L3, they're very different droids. Where L3 is very outspoken and very I don't guess I can describe her, but
she's spunky.
She's spunky, yes. Where K2SO is more of a
he's more like a protocol droid in that he has these sets of rules and things that he like. L3 doesn't have any boundaries.
It's almost like say like a person who what do you want to say is almost emotionless, where he says stuff that is almost inappropriate. I guess where he's like I'll go with you, Jen. Cassian said I had to.
Yeah. No, I think his relationship with Cassian is really cute. Like, you really see how it's kind of like with Lando and L3, they have a bond. Like, yes. They legitimately have a bond. And I love what Alan Tudyk does with K2SO. Like, so I mean, just great. He's just great. I mean, I love the droids, but I love K2SO.
Yeah, definitely a fun character to watch, and as well as all the droids in the Star Wars universe. It's kind of their purpose, so to speak. But Alan Tudyk kind of does a great job with him.
Yeah, the comedic timing that he brings into it is just perfect.
Yeah, and he's going to be in the Cassian Andor series as well. So they've already done a one-shot comic about how they met. I'm not sure if we'll get to see that in the series, if they'll just replay that scene out, or maybe play it a little differently. All right, so then, of course, Donnie Yen as Chirrut, and we'll take them both together. Wen Jiang as Baz. I probably mispronounced all those words, but
pretty much.
They did their first. Donnie Yen, he is one with the Force is with him, but he wasn't a Jedi, so to speak. There are people in the galaxy that know the Force but aren't considered Jedi. Kind of like what Maz Kanata said, where I'm no Jedi, but I know the Force, so to speak. I think Chirrut kind of knows the Force, maybe a little better.
There's probably different levels of Force users.
Well, of course, yeah. But just because you're the Force or can use the Force doesn't mean you're a Jedi. It doesn't mean you're a Sith. There could be you could have the Force without being a Jedi.
It doesn't even mean that you would have enough of it. I'm saying I think there's being a Jedi just means that you have Force powers and you were taken to the Jedi Temple and trained.
Yeah,
it doesn't.
You're part of the Jedi Order.
You're part of the Jedi Order, right? But I think there's other probably people who can use the Force still, but aren't good enough to even have gone to become Jedi. Like, there's probably variations of how much you can use the Force. Like, maybe he has some Force abilities, but it isn't something that could...
His midi-chlorian count wasn't that high?
Something like that.
Oh, you set me up for that one, man. Okay. And then, of course, you have his friend there. I wish I probably should go back and read that Guardians of the Whills, because, those two have an interesting relationship, and I'm curious, how they got together, what happened to them on Jeddah. to where we meet them at the beginning.
They were the guardian of the wills.
Exactly.
And there was nothing else to guard.
And what does that mean? What does that mean when you're guarding wills and there's no wills to guard it anymore?
Then you just sit around.
It can just cause trouble for the Empire, I guess.
Something like that.
Fair enough. Okay. We already talked about critics, so I think we'll skip that. Now, of course, also in this movie, we saw Governor Tarkin, but it was not the actor.
Obviously.
They did some technology, and honestly, when I first watched it, it was a little jarring, I think. But then when I went back a second time, I was used to it. So
yeah, I didn't even hardly notice it.
Yeah, it was a little different. So, but it was it was interesting how they did that, and of course at the end you had that little thing with Leia too, which I think I still noticed the Leia a little more.
Yeah, but not bad. I mean, it was so well done.
But maybe just because I'm used to seeing Carrie Fisher, like I've watched the original trilogy,
so many times,
with her and all that. I'm used to seeing what she looks like younger. We're talking, you get him in that first film, and not even a lot really. So it's easier to forget the nuances of his face versus someone like Carrie Fisher, who's more involved in the Star Wars films. So, but a good job. Saw Gerrera, we talked about Forrest Whitaker a little bit. Bodhi, the kind of last member of Rogue One. Again, another character who felt like he's done bad things and is trying to make it right. Trying to take Galen's message to Saw so that he can pass it on to Jyn. Just a guy who has a guilty conscience, so to speak, and he's just trying to make things right in that respect. So
I think there's probably a lot of people that have been in the Empire that are trying to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we can definitely have that. Galen Erso, Mads Mikkelsen. You get a little bit of this.
Yeah, you don't get much.
You get more, of course. You read Catalyst, you get a lot more of his character and what he's done. It's so interesting, though. Of course, you go back to the original Star Wars film, and they get the plans of the Death Star, and they find out there's a little, hole 2 meters wide. You fire a torpedo in there, and the whole thing blows up. And they're like, well, that's kind of a big flaw. It wasn't a flaw. Someone made it, So it goes to describe that right there. It was purposeful by Galen Erso because, again, we talked about if, he knew they were going to build it with or without him. So, if he went along with it, he could find a way to defeat them from the inside. So kudos to you, Galen. Bail Organa, Jimmy Smits is back, and he is just a small role as ever in this one compared to other films.
Just like in all the films.
Exactly.
He has a tiny little role.
They
get this amazing actor, and they give him like tiny little bits.
He's just there to tease Obi-Wan and Princess Leia is all he's there to do.
Yeah.
But I will say that because then one thing with it is you do have, what is it? You find out that Leia just wasn't passing over Tatooine. She was going to Tatooine, her father sent her there to get the plans to Obi-Wan, to go get Obi-Wan, to try to recruit him into the rebellion. It wasn't just one of those things where they were flying over Tatooine and, they were being chased and C-3PO and R2 just happened to fall on Tatooine. So in that respect, she was there for a purpose, so to speak. So, General Draven, ditto whatever. Mon Mothma, Genevieve O'Reilly played Mon Mothma in the deleted scenes of Episode 3. She also voices Mon Mothma in Star Wars Rebels, so it's kind of nice to see, that continuity between it all, even though a lot of people don't know about the deleted scenes of Revenge of the Sith. She's been playing this character for over a decade now. Maybe we'll see her pop up in some other things, perhaps. I mean, you could probably see her, maybe Cassian, maybe Obi-Wan, stuff like that takes place around that time period.
Yeah.
You never know. So with that...
She does a great job.
Exactly. So, and that's kind of it. Admiral Raddus, you don't really see the actor Paul Casey, but you do have another... Mon Calamari kind of calling the shots in this big old battle at Scarif. But he serves his purpose, and of course later on he gets a ship named after him in The Last Jedi. So, but yeah, that's pretty much kind of the cast and characters of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. It's an enjoyable film. to say the least. Very nice. Now, I will say, of course, let's all talk about a little more about what happened at the end there. This is like moments, not really moments, but at least hours before the events of the original film, A New Hope. And I don't think anybody really expected it to lead so closely up to A New Hope. It's kind of a surprise, but definitely a welcome surprise. Not to mention the Darth Vader kicking ass scene.
Oh my gosh, that scene was so awesome.
It's just you can't explain.
That scene makes this movie, and putting it right at the end too is like even better because like you just go out like
exactly. You're amped up for the very end of it, of course. And, one thing to talk about, too, where people were, they see that scene, and they're like, yeah, I want to see more Darth Vader. Yeah, I want to see Darth Vader kick ass. Read the goddamn books, okay? The whole Darth Vader comic book I was just talking about is him kicking ass the whole time. The Lords of the Sith is him kicking ass the whole time.
Lords of the Sith basically is him and the Emperor just, like, fighting.
Yeah.
People,
everything.
Creatures, anything they can possibly fight.
Yes.
Where are they? They're on
I don't know. Oh, they're on
where the toilet Ryloth.
Ryloth, yes.
So the whole book takes place with them on Ryloth, and they're just like basically fighting the whole book. I mean, I was super bored with it, but then again, I like a little more story content. The fighting isn't the stuff that I like the most.
Well, my favorite part was the end of it. Spoiler alert, guys! At the end of the book, where basically they've won and they're at this village, and the Emperor goes to Vader and he's like, "Hey, kill everyone."
Them all. Yeah,
like he orders Vader to kill. Like there's no point of him killing him, but the Emperor's like, "Hey, I want you to kill him. Go."
Because the Emperor's a douche.
Yeah. He's evil. He's evil indeed. But yes, people like, oh, I want to see a Vader, TV series. I want to see a Vader movie of, Vader kicking ass. And I'm like,
just read the books.
Just read the books, see other things, watch Star Wars Rebels. Okay, another thing that popped up too, it's resurfaced, so to speak, is the whole thing with Darth Maul being in the Obi-Wan series. People are talking about that again. And I'm like, oh my God, people, if you want to see Darth Maul,
watch Rebels.
Watch Clone Wars, okay?
Spoiler alert, he dies in Rebels.
Yes, exactly. People are like, oh, we want to see that Obi-Wan Darth Maul fight or whatever.
No,
and I'm like,
there,
dude,
in Rebels.
They're not going to retcon canon it, because if they retcon canon, you're going to piss a lot of people off. One of which is probably Dave Filoni, who is very favored right now, Lucasfilm. So
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So if you want to see more Darth Maul,
watch Rebels.
Watch Rebels. Watch Clone Wars. If you want to, have more Vader, read the books, read the comics. It's there, guys. You just have to find it.
I mean, Maul in Rebels is some of the best scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially his interaction, not just with Obi-Wan, but with Ezra.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, so good.
Good. I know. I was talking about it. I'm all on the Mon Mothma episode, which is about 2 episodes away from the Maul Obi-Wan episode. So I'm anxious to give that. And yes, guys, guess what? This is all on Disney Plus now, okay?
Yes.
Clone Wars and Rebels, Disney Plus. Watch it, along with Rogue One. Yes, Rogue One's on there as well, too. So I know you have Disney Plus. 10 million people signed up for Disney Plus yesterday, okay? So you have it. Watch this stuff, all right? So,
and then also read the books.
And also to read the books. We gave you some good recommendations, of course, too. If you want to narrow it down a little bit, you can message me or message Lisa, and we'll be sure to narrow down some of that stuff. But I think that's it as far as Rogue One.
Is it?
Yeah, unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
I don't know.
I think we covered quite a bit.
All the books?
Yeah, I think we covered all the books. Again, I feel like there was so much more like books and comics with this one compared to surrounding Solo, so to speak, with all that. So, but yeah, all right. So next week, Star Wars: A New Hope. Now I gotta ask you, how are we gonna watch it? What version are we gonna watch
I don't know
of
what
it?
that means.
Okay, well let's look at it this way. First off, obviously we have the Blu-rays. Okay, which are normal ways. Number 2, they just put it on Disney Plus there, and there's a little different things on those as well. I've heard.
Okay.
And then Ian just burned me on a thumb drive the original edition, the non-specialized editions.
Ian has had those all this time?
He's had them actually the whole time, man. Because I can't find my freaking DVDs of them. I've had the non-special edition DVDs. I let somebody borrow them, and nobody says they have them. So I'm really pissed off about that.
I don't know.
But yes, he burned the original trilogy non-special on a thumb drive that we can watch that if you want to watch that.
I don't care.
You don't care. Let it be known. It's on record. She doesn't care. So.
I mean, I go along with it. Much as I hate the new extra CG stuff that was added to those films. It's what George Lucas wanted, and this is his baby. So I'm fine with it
there
either
are
way.
pros and cons. I'll give you that. There are pros and cons. Pros, better action sequences, like, with the Death Star and the X-Wing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Con, Jabba the Hutt, Greedo shooting, all that stuff. So
I mean, I think scenes, like, anytime that a movie adds back in deleted scenes, it's 99% of the time it's a mistake. Deleted scenes are almost always deleted for a reason.
They actually have deleted scenes from the original trilogy on Disney Plus too. Like some of the deleted scenes you can find on like the DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever. They're actually little extras when you go to the movie. There are little extras in there too.
Yeah, most of the time when movies get deleted scenes added back in afterward, I'm always like, why did they put this in there? It didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
There are a few cases where deleted scenes actually do help. Like, you said with this Superman.
The which one?
Batman v
Superman: Dawn of Justice.
The deleted scenes.
Yes, the whole half hour of Superman footage they took out.
But in general, I don't like when they add back in deleted scenes.
Yeah,
because they don't usually flow properly. The movie, it just they don't work.
I'm just saying, Han shot first. It's all I gotta say about that.
Okay.
It's how it is. It's how it is in my head. It's how it will always be. And just seeing Greedo shooting first, something does not set right with me.
Whatever. Greedo's still the one that died, so
exactly, that's the point.
Han's still the better shot anyway.
All right, guys. Well, that is it. Time for you to fire back and let us know what you think about Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Where does it fall on your list? What do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? And of course, anything else we've talked about, any of the books, or of course Star Wars Rebels. Pretty much me and Lisa could talk Star Wars Rebels all the time. So if you want to chat about that, we'll be glad to do that as well. And if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, Clone Wars, Rogue One, or any of the other Star Wars films, they're now all on Disney Plus, guys. So there you go. All right, well, that's it. Go out, enjoy your week, guys. I will be back probably tomorrow. Actually, regular show, because there's a couple things I want to talk about as far as the Sonic and Hedgehog trailer, a few other things with that. And also, Saturday morning, I'm hoping Lisa and I can sit down and talk the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. Yes, it premiered yesterday, episode 1, but episode 2 is going to be shown on Friday. Needless to say, I'll give you a little taste, is that Lisa and I both enjoyed it, and we watched it twice. And if you haven't watched it, we recommend doing it on a big screen in the dark because the quality of it is so good. So, and we'll talk the rest about it on Saturday. Like I said, I want to get the first 2 episodes down, and then we'll, review those on Saturday. So, look forward to that, guys. And of course, anything else you want to talk about, hit me up on Instagram and Twitter, SlimDayspring12, or the Facebook group, Twitter account, DayspringDiscussions@gmail.com. All right, that's it. Go. Enjoy your day. Have a good one. Until next time, may the Force be with us all.